the latest in a long line of Minion-centric and Gru-central animated movies from Illumination Entertainment. And honestly, when I heard that they were making a Despicable Me 4, I was like, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and watch it, for the content. But I cannot do this review by myself because, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a huge surprise. I had to bring in the cavalry for this. Also, to keep me in check so I don't rip the Minions a new one tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Minion superfan, the one and only, my girlfriend, Lindsay.
Hello.
She already did it. She already did the bellow.
You set it up.
I did set it up, yeah, and I blame myself. These little guys are going to haunt my nightmares tonight, as I'm sure half the viewers are going to be haunted by the Minions tonight. Well, by hook or by crook, we're doing this virtually. Lindsay is here. She's going to be tagging in with her thoughts about Despicable Me 4. Of course, I'm going to give you my thoughts, spoiler-free, of course, since the movie just came out for 4th of July weekend. So this forquel, or sequel, whatever you want to call it, we have Gru welcoming a new member to the family, Baby Gru Jr. He's intent on tormenting his dad. He's not a fan of his dad whatsoever. But Gru and his family's peaceful existence soon comes crashing down when criminal mastermind Maxime Lamal, voiced by Will Ferrell, in an unrecognizable performance, escapes from prison and vows revenge against Gru. Why is he vowing revenge against Gru? Well, I'm not going to reveal exactly what it is because this is a spoiler-free video, but it is kind of dumb. I'll tell you that much, but it's still pretty funny in the grand scheme of things. Before I get into my overall thoughts on the Despicable Me franchise as a whole, Lindsay grew up with this franchise a little bit more closely, so I want to let her talk for a little bit about what this franchise means to her and how hyped she was for Despicable Me 4.
So I did grow up with it, but honestly with this one, I didn't see as much marketing as I did for the other ones. Personally, I only saw like the 2 trailers, if that, and like maybe a couple clips. So I was excited for it, but I also had no idea what to expect. With the other ones, you could kind of expect like who the villain was going to be, what was going to happen, if Gru was going through it, if Gru was with his family. But I couldn't really tell what this one was about from all the trailers and stuff, except for the fact that he has a new baby. That's all I really got from the trailers. He's got a new baby, and they've got a family, and the kids don't look any older.
Which is a huge plot hole. And Lindsay, I am so glad you mentioned that. That's a huge problem that I have with Despicable Me 4. It feels like so much time has passed since the beginning of the franchise, but yet no time has passed at all. You have Miranda Cosgrove playing Margot. Doesn't really feel like Margot has aged at all. Miranda Cosgrove is going on 30, I think, at this point in her career. Margot doesn't look any different than she did back in 2010, whenever the first one came out.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of tell by their attitudes throughout the film that they are a little bit more grown up. Not attitudes, but like their character, and you can kind of tell that they're a little older, but if you really don't pay attention to it, you can't really tell. I still do appreciate that they have the same personalities and they didn't turn into different characters because they are older. So I do appreciate that because you still get the same characters that you like grew up with. Agnes has the same energy and Edith has the same energy and Margot has the same energy. So it's kind of just like, it still feels like part of the film. It doesn't feel like one that they just created for people who are growing up. Like, it still feels like a family movie. It doesn't feel like Inside Out 2 was made for people growing up with the film. This one I feel like is still made for everybody.
To an extent, I agree with you. I feel like Despicable Me is definitely more catered towards the younger audiences. I don't think Illumination's movies overall have had as resounding messages as a Pixar or a DreamWorks. And I really think that's what's really holding them back as a studio. Not that this video is to review the studio as a whole and their whole trajectory as a business. This is just to review Despicable Me 4, the latest in their long line of Minions movies, as I've mentioned. And despite what I've said about them, I actually do like these movies. I own all 3 of the original Despicable Me's. These first 2 were so much fun to watch in the theater. This one, I don't remember when 3 came out. It was 2016, really? It was that long ago? Yeah, we're going to run with it. Despicable Me 3 came out 8 years ago. Can you believe that? That's wild to me.
But they had Minions movies in between, so they didn't just disappear.
But those
now,
don't
do you
count.
own those? Do you own those?
No, why would I own the Minions movies?
Because then you don't own the whole franchise.
Yeah, but the Minions movies don't count. They're spin-offs.
But they're, like, so much better sometimes.
but they're so annoying. Do you
You are
want to just
annoying.
bury the hatchet right now? Do you want to just like dig right into that? Like these, I've had my fair share to say about them. This theater that I went to tonight was jam packed, and the majority of them were teenagers who grew up with this stuff like when they were little kids, teenagers going into their college years. I would notice like these were like little kids when Despicable Me was coming out. So this is kind of on the same lines as me growing up with Shrek and all that. Like, you grow up with these characters. And while I'm on Gru, Steve Carell, so freaking good once again in this movie. I would liken Gru to a more child-friendly version of Shrek, just in his facial expressions, the way his eyes are animated, the way he actually reacts to everything that's going on around him. And his whole character arc to me feels very Shrek in a sense.
I can kind of see that, but I also still think he's his own character. And it's
Totally.
Like I
Totally.
can see how they take different elements, because in this, I saw like any of the animals that I saw animated throughout the film, whether it was a side character or not, they all looked like Secret Life of Pets to me.
I was just about to say that. I saw like I'm sure you loved the cat that the character of, I don't even remember that little girl's name. I don't want to reveal what this little girl does with Gru and her connection to Gru, because that'll be a pretty deep spoiler, but she has a cat that lives in this treehouse with her, and I'm sure Lindsay was gushing about the cat.
I forgot about that cat.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of tells you how lasting Despicable Me 4 is going to be on your memory after you watch it, just to the viewers. Because honestly, I wouldn't say that this is on the level of Despicable Me 1 or 2. Those are the two best ones for sure. I would put this on the same level as 3. I may have liked this actually better than 3. Mainly because of the connection that Gru has with the baby. And I'll tell you this much right now, Lindsay, my theater loves this baby.
My theater was kind of quiet, surprisingly. I mean, to be fair, movie theaters are loud for me, so I always have to wear earplugs, so I couldn't hear a lot of reactions, and I was also by myself because no one was sitting next to me, and I was towards the back. But a lot of the times, when the baby would do something that wasn't small, like it was like a bigger plot point, then I would get a reaction. But anytime else, I didn't really get a lot of reaction from the audience. And my audience was mixed. I saw some families, I saw some little kids, I saw a couple was like at the other end of the row, like an older couple, older than us. So that was interesting to see. Like they were parents that didn't seem to have kids in there with them. So I got a whole range of people in my theater, which is normally not full ever. And it was packed. And it's a small theater.
You know what the craziest part is? And I'm sure audience members, once they go and see Despicable Me 4, can keep track of this. Gauge the audience's interest in the baby as compared to the Minions now. Because there's one sequence that I laughed at with the Minions. Just one. And it's where I don't even remember which Minion it was by name. Honestly, I liken these Minions to the Cat in the Hats Minions, Thing 1 and Thing 2. I don't even put names to them because they're all the same to me. But there is one Minion that referees a tennis match that Gru is involved in. and this Minion is very partial, trying to help Gru any chance he gets. That part is funny. I'll give them credit where it's due. I laughed at that. Everything else to me just felt pretty routine. It felt like a pretty basic kids movie to me. The animation was cool. The colors I thought were very vibrant on screen. The connection between Gru and his son is the central point of this movie. And it honestly could resonate with me more later on in life once I have kids of my own, because I'm sure people who grew up with the Despicable Me movies, once they show these movies to their kids, it's going to hit them on a whole nother level. And I'll give them credit for that. But I feel like at this point, Illumination has reached a point with these Minions, and I hate saying this because the Minions are super marketable for them. Those little guys make them tons of money. Say what you want about them. But it's almost like they're running out of ideas for the Minions. And it's just like watching Despicable Me 4, to me, it just felt like they were looking for an excuse to keep them in this universe.
I agree with that, because I honestly did wish that the Minions were more relevant, because I like the Minions, so I would like to see more of them. But I do understand that it's a Despicable Me film, so they're not going to be as featured as Gru and his family would be. I don't know, the marketing made it seem like those like superhero Minions would be bigger. So I kind of wish that they were featured more, because I went to the movie theater and all of their like little popcorn buckets and drinks and collections and stuff is all of the like those 5 or 4 or 3 or however many minions they have that were like not regular minion shaped. So it made it seem like that would be a bigger part of the movie, but it really like wasn't as much as I would like it to be.
I feel like that's my whole issue with Illumination as a studio, because I'm going to compare them to Disney and to DreamWorks again. When you think of Disney, how many iconic characters can you name off the top of your head? At least 10, probably, right now. Same thing with DreamWorks. I'm sure I could name at least a half a dozen iconic characters that you just liken to DreamWorks, and you can't help but think of DreamWorks and not think of these characters. The only characters that I think of with Illumination are these little yellow annoying assholes. And I feel like that's their problem, is that they keep going to the woodworks way too many times, because Lindsay is absolutely right. You look at the poster, I'm going to put it up here again, just in post here. Look at that poster. Do you think this movie is about Gru when you look at this poster? No, it's about the minions. That's what Illumination is selling you. And it's a darn shame, because Gru is a great character. Gru is the main character. And they're not even really putting him on the main poster for this movie. That's where my issue starts to come in. And it just sort of felt to me, especially watching this movie, even though I liked it more than 3, it definitely felt to me like they were forcing storylines for these guys. And they don't really need to anymore.
I personally would like to talk about the villain with no spoilers, of course. Throughout the trailers, I saw nothing about the villain. Like, I had no idea who or what to expect. And when I saw this villain, I was not happy. I can't give spoilers, but if you see it, you might understand that the audience might be split as to why you like him, why you don't like her. This villain, I mean, the concept was cool, and throughout the film, it got better. But initially, I saw it, and I didn't like it very much.
Do you think that maybe because the studio wasn't exactly proud of the effort that they put into this villain? Because I'll be honest, I heard the modified voice that this actor was using, and I was like, that's Will Ferrell. He is doing all he can to make this character as funny as possible. And Will Ferrell is a big draw. Will Ferrell's been a big draw for at least 2 decades now. Like, how could you not market that Will Ferrell is in this movie?
I couldn't figure it out until you told me, for some reason. I saw his name on the screen, and I was like, who is playing what? I didn't understand it till you told me. I don't know how or why, but I honestly did not hear his voice in the character, which I guess is a good thing, because then you're focusing more on the villain, but still.
And the villain himself kind of felt generic to me. It felt a lot to me like Brad Pitt in Megamind, for all intents and purposes. It felt like almost a carbon copy of it. It was so bizarre.
It was bizarre, especially since, like, in every Despicable Me movie, there's always some childhood thing between Gru and the villain, whether it's the villain's fault or Gru's fault or both. There's always some, like, childhood aspect to it, which I do appreciate. It's always really fun. But I feel like they mentioned it, and then they didn't talk about it till the end of the movie. And it didn't really give the villain, I guess it it gave it reason to be a villain, I guess, but it didn't really like explain it until the end, so it just didn't make sense why this villain was so angry or why this villain was out to get Gru. Like, it didn't really it didn't explain it very well until like the end.
Yeah, this script honestly may be the biggest issue with Despicable Me 4, is it definitely felt very cookie cutter and very generic. A lot of these plot points you have seen done in millions of other movies, and I guarantee you that a lot of those movies did it better than this. But then again, at the same time, you can't fault the talent for the effort that they're putting in. Steve Carell, really great as Gru. I like Kristen Wiig as an actress a lot. I think she's hilarious, and I think they're hilarious together. Miranda Cosgrove is on the up and up. I love seeing where her career is going. I'm still very upset that even though the new iCarly was written like it was 2 broke girls, I feel bad that it was canceled. I feel bad for her. I feel bad for Nathan Kress. I feel bad for Jerry Trainer, because I know that they wanted a second chance at that series, and I'm really pulling for Miranda Cosgrove to succeed, but it just didn't feel like Despicable Me 4 was giving her enough material, because like I said, it was centered around Gru and his baby, and it almost felt like the mom and the 3 daughters were thrown by the wayside. And they're huge supporting characters in those first two movies. They're great supporting characters. And it just felt like they didn't have much. I think another problem with this script was its overall predictability. You could have seen this blueprint from a mile away. This movie ends with a dance sequence. And you've seen a lot of kids' movies, especially over the past decade, that have a dance sequence attached to it with a song that is really popular on the radio.
I'm pretty sure every single one of these movies in this series has ended with a dance sequence.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, because they want the young kids to get up and dance in front of the screen during the credits.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm older, so I'm able to see these little things now. But there's a lot of predictability with, like, who was going to win? What was going to happen next? Or, oh, I knew it. That's happening. Or, this happened. If they don't resolve it, that's dumb. Of course they resolved it, and now you know. So it was kind of just predictability. And I don't know if that's part of the fact that it's more of a kid's film, or I've just gotten older and I can notice these things. But the credits were also fun because the minions were featured all throughout the credits. I don't know how long you stayed till the credits. I stayed till the end credits. And there was a little sleepy minion, and it was my favorite thing ever.
I left once the credits started rolling because I knew it was going to be so minion heavy, and I had had enough. I wanted to go home. I had seen enough of the story. I saw the story I wanted to see. And then I'm like, okay, credits. But if you like the minions, like Lindsay does, stay through the credits.
Yeah, there's no after credit scene. There's an end credit scene that's right before the credits, but there's no after credit scene. It's just the minions popping up throughout the credits, which makes it more enjoyable for the kids who like are staying or trying while the parents are trying to ramble them and get them out. Like, it kind of makes it more entertaining too.
But overall, Despicable Me 4, even though it's not the strongest in the overall saga, I think it does have a nice story of Gru being presented as the anti-hero that has morals attached to him. His relationship with his son, as I've mentioned, very sweet overall. The baby is very cute as well, even though he does look a lot like Jack in his animation. And there were definitely some elements of his meltdown from the first Incredibles movie that is towards the end as well.
See, I saw Boss Baby, not Incredibles. I saw Boss Baby in that baby. And I don't know if it was just the different faces that baby was making or because it's similar animation, but that's what I saw in that baby.
Just for the record, we do not accept Boss Baby's praise on this channel. That is a stupid movie, and I will die on that hill.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave then. Bye! I agree with its stupidity, but it is enjoyable sometimes.
But objectively speaking, I'm going to give Despicable Me 4 a C+. I think if you have young children this 4th of July season, they will absolutely enjoy themselves. But if you've seen one Despicable Me film at this point, it feels like you've seen them all at this point. And I'm pulling for Illumination so hard to come up with the next big new creative idea.
Anyways, I do appreciate it that it is a different take on it, because you kind of expect Gru to now be like a nice guy, because throughout the last couple of films, he kind of, I don't really think he's a hero. I think he's just an anti-hero. But it was really interesting, like, knowing that movie would include that, seeing how he is an anti-hero and not a villain with morals. So it was a very interesting shift from at least like the first movie and maybe the second movie as well. Honestly, I think I give this movie a B, which is kind of lower than I thought I would give it, but it's still really good. It's cute, but the others were better. I do honestly think there was a Minion movie that I did like better than this film, but that's because I like Minions. But it's a fun adventure, so I give it a B.
I will also say that at least my theater did not have people who are dressing up in suits pretending to be well-behaved citizens and then popping like mad once the Minions Rise of Gru movie started and chanting the Minions' name before the movie even began. Like, that's ridiculous. That's a pop that's on the level of like a Marvel movie nowadays. I never would have thought that in a million years for a Minions movie. I'm still like, it's been 2 years now, and I'm still so perplexed by that moment.
I remember when the third one came out, or the Minions movie, not the third one, whatever. I remember when that came out 2 years ago, and by the time I had been seeing it, wearing suits was pretty much banned. So I didn't get that experience. So you're lucky. You don't think it, but you are.
It wasn't banned in my town, that's for sure, because my theater was half filled with people who were so sharply dressed. And I looked in and I thought, did I underdress for this occasion? Is there a business casual dress code for this movie that I must have missed? Objectively speaking, is it going to be the best movie of the year? No. I would absolutely recommend seeing Inside Out 2 over this movie. It's way way better and more thematically rich. And I feel like that movie has a lot more for everybody. Despicable Me nowadays feels like it's more catered to younger children. But if you enjoyed this review, guys, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up as well. Thank you to everybody who was requesting more of Lindsay on the channel as well. Lindsay is the best. And don't worry, this is not the last you're going to be seeing of her. But stay tuned for more videos very soon. I'm looking forward to reviewing both Twisters as well as Deadpool and Wolverine by the end of the month. Two hugely anticipated blockbuster releases. I'm going to be continuing reviewing my Deadpool and Wolverine movies in the build-up to the end of July, so look forward to those. All that and much, much more, guys. Thank you again so much for your support. And with all that being said, Back Talk commence.